English question for Sam here. All right, so what is the difference between affect and effect?
Yeah, definitely. It's a classic English problem, right?
Yeah.
Affect and effect. And I do think that we try to do this thing where we're like, affect, effect, and try to like really make a distinction there. But we just like, that's not how we actually speak. We just say effect, and it sounds the same for both of these words. And there are other words like this, but affect and effect are really tricky because their meaning can be kind of overlapping in a sense. And because of that, we tend to run into problems with them.
Do you think we say affect and effect, we say it the same just because we don't know the difference?
Okay, that could be also that we're just like
Safety.
kind of correcting.
It's a safety. Just
Yeah.
affect?
It is kind of.
I should be effect. That's what I said.
I think that I would say that the effect of affect and effect sounding so similarly is that we do just say them like that. But I think that they also, I just don't think that there's that much of a difference in the way that we genuinely pronounce
True.
them, even when we know
Yeah.
the difference. So if you go online and ask Google this question, a great way to kind of think through this is there's a lot of really awesome images that are created to sort of help English students understand this. So there's a classic one, if we could jump to my screen, that uses an aardvark, and it says the arrow affected the aardvark, and then you can see that the effect of the arrow sticking in the aardvark's butt was eye-popping. And so what you can see here is this difference between effect with an A and effect with an E. So effect with an A has a meaning that's closer to like influence, right? And then effect with an E has a meaning that's close to like results, I would say. Another one that I found recently that I think is great is this one, right? So one person affects with an A another person by pushing them into a lake, right? And then the effect, the result on that person is they are now standing mostly underwater, right? Let me just show one more here. You might be affected with an A by the rain, and the effect with an E of that would be that you would get soaking wet. So again, the distinction here is really between sort of an influence and a result. Another word that's often used is impact. There are English teachers that just suggest you should just use the word impact because impact can be used as a verb or as a noun, and it can essentially mean either of these effects. The word impact can be used for both, and then you avoid any questions about whether you would get this right or wrong. Now, another way to think about this is effect with an A typically is used as a verb, and effect with an E is typically used as a noun. And that's a really good clue that often helps us make the distinction. And what I'll do here, just to test this out a little bit, is, Nate, do you mind if I pick on you?
Not at all.
All right. So Nate, I'm going to pick on you a little bit. I've got a few questions here.
Okay.
The question to you is, are we going to use affect with an A or effect with an E? Okay? So in this first sentence, we've got winning the lottery immediately blanked his life.
I'm going to go with an A.
Yeah, effect with an A, and that's exactly right. And how did you know that?
Because it wasn't really a result. It's what's happening. It was having a result.
Would you say
in
it
his life.
influenced? It had an influence on his
influenced his
life?
life, that's
So
a good
again,
one,
that's sort of the thing that we want to think about. It had an influence. The other thing is, did you use effect as a verb or as a noun?
As a verb.
As a verb in this case.
Right.
I'm sorry if I was putting you on the spot a little bit. But he did use it as a verb, right? It affected his life. If we could jump to my screen again, unless we're maybe running a little bit short. No, I think we're okay. Winning the lottery had a major effect on his life. In this case, we're saying a really similar thing.
Right.
Right? But we're saying a major effect, so effect is now a noun. And we're also saying that it had a major result on his life. We're talking about the results that this thing had, not the influence, but the results.
So could you also think about, because effect and result are very similar,
Yeah.
or impact and all that, is it generally useful to think, if you're still a little bit lost on it, is to replace the word effect with an E with result,
With
and think
impact.
if it still works?
Well, so
or-
impact is what's recommended because impact could work for either one of these. Listen, I could say winning the lottery immediately impacted his life.
Right.
Winning the lottery had a major impact on his life.
Oh, what I mean is to tell the difference between
Oh, yeah.
affect and effect.
Absolutely.
To just be like
change out the
result.
word influence if you think it's effect, or result if you think it's if you think it's effect with an A, put in
Right.
influence. If you think it's effect with an E, put it in result.
Because it's much more obvious. It doesn't make sense. It's not clear.
That's exactly
flow
right.
in the sentence.
That is exactly right. And I think that's the
Yeah.
best way to do it. Make sure it makes sense from that perspective. Just really briefly, I'll mention I have 2 other sentences here. This one down here, John never smiles. His affect is totally flat. Sometimes we use affect with an A and we pronounce it affect when we do that. And we're talking about a person's sort of emotional state. In that case, totally different meaning, so there shouldn't be any confusion there. Then you can also use affected as a verb. I came up with this sentence, although he wasn't nominated, Bernie Sanders affected a leftward shift in the Democratic Party. And in that case, you're causing a result to happen. So
Right.
it's still affect with an E, but it's used in a verb form.
Oh, that one confuses me.
Yeah, so if you're at all confused, my recommendation is never use affect with an E as a verb, and just start using impact.
Or
Got
you
it.
could try replacing it again if it's confusing, and you could say it resulted.
Yeah,
in a-
resulted in a leftward
There
shift.
we go. Okay, that
versus,
makes sense now. I can
well,
do
but if
that.
you said influenced the leftward shift, you might say, oh, that could maybe work. It could be tricky. So
I think thinking of the meaning of the sentence, but yeah, it's. Yeah,
But,
I guess
hey,
they would both work.
I am with you, and I think ultimately with these things, the bottom line is always we just want to be understood.
Right.
Just, yeah, as long as we're not taking SATs on that.
Right.
Yes, unless we take the SAT, and then we actually want to know the difference. In
Yeah.
which case, pay attention to what I said.